Except for a few nations skilled in the practice of neutrality, another global battle may be just around the corner given the deteriorating relations between the USA, the Middle East, China, and the DPRK. Notice, these nations will be examined in the event of a non-nuclear conflict, which will seem more plausible given that no government wants to pay for a nuclear weapon they recently sent, which will cause global annihilation, which is profitable for no one. The majority of these safe havens are located in the Americas and the middle of the sea, and many of them are mountainous, have harsh weather, or are isolated geographically. Given how historically unstable the region was, with innumerable historical conflicts, empires, rebellions, alliances, and rivalries, Eurasia only has one candidate. The majority of candidates either lack natural resources, Fiji, Nauru, making them unsuitable for invasion, or possess terrifyingly capable armies to defend those resources, Finland, Switzerland. Or simply possess a surplus of resources that will compel your allies to aggressively defend you, Norway, Canada. Or simply elect a national leader who is intelligent, not the US, DPRK, PRC, and such. There is no particular order to this list. Canada. The largest source of natural resources in the world, including oil, natural gas, wood, and many others, is Canada. This would appear to make it an ideal candidate for annexation in a global conflict, but the USA, its most potent ally, surrounds it to the northwest and south. First off, Canada is well secured by its closest ally, America, which has access to Alaska and can aid them in fending off an attack that may come from both sides. The numerous islands dotting the west coast of Canada are also a fantastic natural defense that will impede enemy amphibious assaults. Guess who's done island hopping before? The USA. The rugged mountains on Canada's west coast also provide an excellent vantage position and protection for a defense, and they will significantly slow down an opposing advance. The Canadian military, which has never lost a war, is also renowned for being among the most trained and effective in the entire world. A potent deterrent with additional regional benefits. From what the world has observed with France, Sweden, and Germany, twice losing to the Russian winter, the ludicrously cold winter near Alaska and the Queen Elizabeth Islands would also substantially assist. In conclusion, Canada is like a fort, full of multiple geographic defenses including harsh weather, -15°C average temperature and 9°M average snowfall during Alberta's winter months, mountainous terrain, and a lot of speed bumps. Not to mention allies and a strong military. In New Zealand. Since the end of World War II, when New Zealand fought actively all over the world, it has charted a course for a peaceful and orderly society. Blending in with the natives really helps. This preserved a tranquil and laid-back political approach. Invasion is also greatly deterred by the British Commonwealth, NATO membership, and close relations to the US. Overall, New Zealand's isolation from other countries serves as its only geographic defense, but its diplomatic links to potent allies more than make up for this lack of geographic advantages. Switzerland. Switzerland, a landlocked nation with mountains and a mixed ethnic population, embodies what Europe should be all about. Switzerland is still a very calm and successful country despite being bordered by historically unstable nations such as Austria, France, and Germany, mostly because of its geography and the government's excessive preparation for conflict. The Swiss Alps are a geographically advantageous fortress located on the southern part of the nation. In secret locations all around the mountain range, the Swiss have constructed almost 20,000 nuclear bunkers that can protect more than 114% of their population from nuclear apocalypse. Yes, they can accept a lot of refugees. The Alps' jagged shape gives the defenders a great view of the invaders in the event of a southern invasion. Since the struggle against Napoleon, Switzerland has likewise been non-aligned. They have never joined any historical coalitions, making it the friend of all. from Fiji through Tuvalu to Iceland, the nation with the statistically lowest crime rate. With the exception of Iceland, which is brimming with metal ores and sea produce, island nations are typically remote, politically unaligned, with the exception of Cyprus, which is divided between the Republic of Cyprus and Turkey's northern Cyprus, and many nations devoid of useful natural resources. Since it is a waste of effort and fuel to take such a meaningless piece of earth that can only supply them a few thousand employees, the majority of invading nations would not invest much to journey to those remote places. Since the Second World War, island nations like Nauru, Iceland, and Fiji have been neutral, but many other islands that were strategically located near shipping lanes, like Okinawa, Wake Island, and Midway, which were owned by Japan during the war, have been subject to island-hopping campaigns. These islands also form the best route for the U.S. to travel to the Japanese mainland with the least amount of delay. On the other hand, while not having an army, Iceland is a NATO member with the support of the US and UK that once proxy invaded them to protect it from Nazi occupation in 1940. The formidable British and US Marines, along with the rest of NATO, would put up a fierce fight against an invasion intended to capture this strategically important island as a stepping stone for a transatlantic attack. This illustrates the tendency of independent island states occupying remote, non-strategic locations and being the most peaceful. If not, having strong allies who will fight to the death for you. Malta. A little island country called Malta floats in the Mediterranean Sea. It is a fortification that failed after being captured by numerous empires from the time it was a crusader state until World War II. Due to its topography, it is very expensive and difficult to assault by land forces or by water. Furthermore, no nation will waste a whole nuclear missile on it because to its modest size. Therefore, it will ultimately merely be disregarded by the main WWII combatants. Ireland. Ireland tends to have a completely independent foreign policy and is not a member of NATO because of its long-standing military neutrality, despite the fact that it is located right next to the most powerful nation in the world, England. It also doesn't have any close ties to any other prospective World War II participants. Irish doctrine states that if they ever had to engage in any absurd military battles, they would need approval from both the Irish government and legislature as well as the UN. That is a cunning but wisely impartial policy, to be sure. Chile. Chile is one of the most prosperous and stable countries in South America, with a higher level of human development than any other country in the region. From the west of its borders, where the Andes Mountains encircle it, it becomes nearly impassable. Due to its location in the southern hemisphere and the fact that it is less populous and industrialized than the northern hemisphere, it tends to have less pollution in the atmosphere. Additionally, the Antarctic constantly replenishes Chile's air masses, so that it can remain more pure than the war-torn countries to its north. Any nation without a military, due to a lack of resources that would be better used for infrastructure and welfare, some nations have a tendency to be poor. On December 1, 1948, former Costa Rican President José Figueres even took a risky but symbolic action by making a hole in the country's upcoming military headquarters and transforming it into a national art museum with funds going toward education, healthcare, and environmental protection. The World Peace Index places many of these countries highly, with Iceland topping the list. Yes, it also has no army, and Costa Rica coming in at number 33, which is still impressive given that it is nowhere near Iceland or, say, Canada. International law prohibits the invasion of these nations because they are unable to defend themselves. If one of these nations were ever invaded, there would unavoidably be a severe international backlash and perhaps a UN-led collective defense of the defenseless country. The UN assembled an army that at one time punched back from Busan all the way to the Yalu River during the Korean War, when the Communist North unexpectedly attacked the South. Most nations now use this unusual and noteworthy response as a deterrent to war. It is generally safe to predict that this won't happen again. With the rise of terrorism, which has affected more than half of the world's population, the depletion of natural resources like water and oil, the superpowers' warlike and politically biased leadership, and rising tensions between nations like India and China, North Korea and South Korea, and Russia and Ukraine, our world is on the verge of World War III. However, given their high level of neutrality, these nations may be let alone if World War III ever breaks out. This is all for today. Don't forget to subscribe and click the bell icon for more videos. Stay tuned with AWZ.